Smiling faces, the family way. Margaret Lewin Quilting will make your day.
Hi, I'm Margaret Lewin and welcome to Margaret Lewin Quilting. Today we are going to continue making our Travel Duffle 2.0. This is a pattern by Annie, and I think most of you know by now, I just absolutely love the patterns by Annie. I think she does a great job with the directions, and I love the way the pieces turn out at the end. They are always nice and clean, seams are hidden, and they just simply look great. Now that I've gotten my strap sewn, I need to get into my hardware bag and grab this piece. Now you can see that it does have a little bit of a curve to it. So you want that curve facing up. So I'm going to take my strap, got my seam on the bottom, and I'm just going to thread this through here on both sides. Once I've threaded through there, I'm going to take my ruler. So I've got my little teeny tiny Creative Grids ruler. It's a 2.5 square ruler. I need to take this so that I've got about 1.5 inches to work with to sew it down. So you can see I've got a little bit more than 1.5 inches, but I want to make sure that I can actually get up and around this. I'm afraid if I go too close to the edge here, I'm not really certain how I'm going to get my sewing machine foot through there. Let's see what we're going to do here. All right, so if I start here and I sew down and then I turn, you can see I'm about 1/4 inch from the edge. That's where I really need to be in order for it be able to sew down efficiently. So that's where I'm going to start counting from, is right here in the center. So I'm going to take a pin, just like this. Just kind of put it in the middle there so that I know. Then I'm going to measure, because I know I have to stay this far away from that edge. And with that, I've got more than that. I've got almost 1.75 inches. So I do want to shorten it up a little bit. So I'm just going to take my pin partially out and I'll clip it back in. Now I can make my adjustments. It's just important that you make sure that you know how far you need to be in order to be able to turn your presser foot so that you can sew it. So now I'm going to try this again and see where I end up. I just took it out and I'm going to put it back in again. All right, so now you can see where I'm at. And I think that's really good. I'm going to double check one more time. I'll stick my needle in there. Try not to poke myself. Now I'm going to measure down. And yeah, I'm just at 1.5 inches now. I'm going right to the very edge and I'm at 1.5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and put my pin right in there and hold it good and securely. I will probably start sewing here, sew across, up, across, down. Then I'm going to make an X. All right, so that I can really make certain that this is nice and secure. So I'll be starting to sew right here. Now I'll come back and show you when it's done. You can see there's my strap, and I've double stitched there a few times to make certain that it's good and secure. I've got a thread to clean up there, but otherwise it's looking good. I got it going the way I need it to. I want you to pay close attention to how we do this one. This piece is called the Carrying Strap. All right, so we've got this really long, I'll try to get most of it in camera view. We've got this really long carrying strap. All right, there's our strap. We've got a slider attached on one end, and we sewed that down. The next thing I'm going to do is take one of my swivel hooks, and I'm going to put it through the other end of it. All right, and you can see the slider hooks on the side that doesn't have the center seam. And I'm going to pick up this end. See where my seam is? And I'm going to stick it through this side. Here, let me show you the slider again. This side of the slider with my seam down. I'm going to pull it up through, then I'm going to put it back down through the other side of the slider. And I'm going to give myself a little decent sized tail, because the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my second swivel, I'm going to put it in here, then I'm going to attach it down the exact same way that I attached down the slider. All right, so I'm just going to measure this, put it together. I'm going to stitch down across, up across, make my X, and then I'll be done. I think what we have to do next is put the padded handle on it, but I'll get to that as soon as I do this first. I'm going to first do this, then I'll come back and show you. All right, so I got that all on. See, I'm all done there. I'm going to push my slide back down now, only because I need, I wanted a little bit more space. And the last thing that we're going to do before we set this aside is take our strap and just make its way through the pad so that we've got a nice padded carrying strap for when we carry our duffel. I'm going to pull it up through. Whoops, sorry about all the noise. And there we go. There is our carrying strap. Now we're going to work on our carrying strap tabs. You can see here what I'm doing is inserting a tube into my strip stick to press it open. To make your tube, it's pretty simple. You're just going to take your carrying strap tab and put right sides together, sew a 1/4 of an inch seam down the long side. Once you've done that, Annie does suggest that you press your seams open, so that's exactly what it is that I'm doing here. I am getting it ready to use my strip stick to get the seams pressed open. Then once I do that, what I'm actually going to do is take the strip stick out, turn the strap to the other end, and do the exact same thing. I did find that it helped a lot having the seam pressed open. I think it did make a difference, but this is actually how I did it, and it was really pretty simple. Once I turned it right side out, then I inserted my webbing. Once the webbing was inserted, then I went and top stitched it down the same way I did my other straps. I did one line of stitching 1/8 of an inch from one side, from each side, and then I did a secondary stitching 1/4 from each side. So I have actually 4 lines of stitching. I am much happier with that. So this is exactly what I did. I'll let you keep watching. I'll turn some music on for you. Alright, so now I've got both of these sewn and turned inside out. So the next thing I'm going to do is take the straps. These are the strapping, carrying straps. I'm going to take my large pin, attach it to one end, and pull it through. And according to Annie's directions, she said that the fabric is going to be longer than the strap. So what I'm going to do is just try to evenly distribute it from one end to the other. Just keeping it simple, but trying to distribute it pretty evenly. I do find pulling from the seam on the back side works about the best. I don't know why it seems to slip through there easier, but it does. So I'm just going to take the minute, get these through. I'll show you just the one. I won't make you watch me do both of them. And then I believe, according to the directions, the next thing I have to do is top stitch these down like I have the other straps. So I'll get these put on, then I'll go top stitch them down. Then I think what we actually do after that is we have to attach another piece of hardware to these. So I will double check my directions, somehow get my pin out, and then we will move on to the next one. Now that I've gotten my straps in, I've top stitched them down just the way I did the other ones. Now the next thing is we need to fold it in half, and we need to insert this piece of hardware so that our carrying strap can attach. So that's all I'm doing, folding it together with the seams inside, and then I'm just going to top stitch here across the end. I'm going to do that on both of them, and then at that point what we are going to do is actually move on to the next step. And again, I'm just going to sew the ends of both of them. Right. These are here's my carrying strap. It's all done. Here's the other one, and you can see I've sewn it together at the end, and I've also attached the hardware. So the next thing we're going to work on is our end pocket. All right, so to do our 2 end pockets, what we're going to do is take our facing, or our, what does she call it? She calls it our binding. So what we're going to do is take our 2 pieces of binding. I'm going to fold them in half, and then what I'm going to do is just attach them right to the piece directly. I'm not going to press it first or anything like that. I'm just going to attach it. Let me turn my wonder clip around. I'm going to do that, put probably 3 wonder clips on it. And then I'm going to take it over to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew a 1/4 of an inch. I'll come back and show you what that looks like once I've sewn the 1/4 of an inch. Here's my 1/4 of an inch sewn. You can see it on the front side. What I'm going to do is just take it and fold it around. I have to turn it towards me. I'm going to start in the middle and I'm going to put a wonder clip on it. Then I'll do my 2 ends, and I'm just smoothing it over, not pulling it because I don't want to, pull the fabric at all. I just want it to nicely smooth down and around. Now that I've done that, I'll show you the one pocket that I have done. The next step, I just took it over to my sewing machine and just top stitched it down. So I have a nice straight line on this line, and you really don't see it on the back side. So that's what it is. I'm going to do the second one, and then we're going to move on to the next piece, which I believe is our trolley strap. All right, those are both done. And now that those are done, I'm going to move you over to my sewing machine so that you can watch exactly how I do this. All right? This is how I go about sewing the binding on the top of these straps. I just use my 1/4 inch foot, which is number 37 on a Bernina, and I just carefully stitch. I don't push the fabric around, I just gently hold it into place and really let the sewing machine do the bulk of the work. I tend to learn if I try to push it myself or if I push to feed it through, what ends up happening is I'll break a needle or stretch the fabric, and that's not something I want to do. Right now what I'm working on is the trolley sleeve, so you can see it has binding on both sides. I'm working on one side of the binding, and now I believe I'm going to pick up my needle and my presser foot, and yep, I'm going to sew the second side of the binding down. Once I've done that, then I'll turn it over and I'll actually top stitch it down. That way I can easily see exactly how straight my line is. And yep, I ran out of thread. Okay, now that I've gotten my machine rethreaded, what you can see here, I think, is I've actually turned it over and I'm using my stiletto to help me obtain a straight stitch. What I do is I just hold the stiletto in place and allow the fabric to feed through. I'm not pushing it really one way or another, I'm just holding it steady. So that is how I do the front side of our trolley sleeve. I wanted you to see what the trolley sleeve looks like when both sides of the binding is done. So here's the front and here's the back, and I think it looks pretty good. So on to the next step. The next step is to do the binding on the A and B pockets. So I'm going to take care of that off camera, and then I'll come back and insert a clip or a photograph of what that looks like. Okay, I have sewn my binding onto the top, and then the next thing that the directions tell you to do, if you're going to put the trolley sleeve on it, and I am putting the trolley sleeve on, to attach it to your one of your A or B pockets. I can't remember which one. But anyhow, so now I've pinned it on there with my Wonder Clips, and I'm just going to top stitch down on both sides. Once I finish this, then we're off to the zippers. All right, we're now going to work on the front zip pockets, and there's 2 of these. So the first thing that I did was I took my zipper and I cut it, because we have one long zipper that has 2 zipper pulls on it. So that's what I did. I took it and I cut it based on the size that the pattern instructed. Then I took and put right sides together and put it down on the top of my pocket. Now, a couple of things. I wanted my zipper pulls to go in the same direction. I didn't care if they opened out or opened in, but I wanted mine the same direction. So you can see from this one that I've already done, my zipper goes in this direction. So what I'm going to do is make sure that this zipper goes inwards. So then when I go to put them on my bag, it doesn't matter. I could put them like this and they both open outwards, or like this and they both open inwards. But I wanted them to be the same, because there was something about having one going in one direction and the other one going in the other just kind of bothered me, because I wouldn't want it to be opposite. I think you get what I'm saying. So anyhow, the first thing that I'm going to do is just top stitch right down here on the right side. Then once I've done that, what I'm going to do is fold my zipper to the inside of my pocket and top stitch it down. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is attach the binding. Now, how I attached the binding was I folded wrong sides together, lined it up on the wrong side, then flipped it over and top stitched it down. And I'm going to do the exact same thing here. I'll let the camera roll and turn some music on for you and let it go fast. This is the inside pocket, and you can see here is my interfacing in there. It's all pressed in, and then I folded it over and top stitched it per the instructions. So the next thing that we're gonna start working on is the side straps in the sides of our duffel bag. So you can see I've taken my side straps. I used my white chalk to mark the 2 spots. And what I need to do next is I'm going to sew, I'll use this so you can see, I'm going to sew right up here on this line, all the way up. I'll come across, I'll go back down, I'll go across, I'll go up, across again, then back down to here, and then I'll sew right straight down there again. So that what I'm doing is creating an X right here, and what that X will do is stabilize this even more, so that if you've got it full of stuff, it'll just stabilize it a little more. I'm going to do that on both of these, and then I'll come on back. All right, I've gotten that sewn down, you can see, and I did exactly what I said I was going to do. I came up this side, went across, down, across, up, down, whoop, off we go. So I got those both sewn down. Here's the second one. All right, whoop, thread. The next thing that we have to do is attach the end pockets. So I have rounded the corners, and I've shown you before how I go about rounding the corners. I just use a 2.5 inch circle, and I just mark it on the wrong side and then trim it with scissors. Real simple. So I'm going to line this up. I'm going to use my Wonder Clips, clip it together, and I'm just going to sew a scant 1/8 of an inch all the way around here, putting these two sides together. I'll do it on both ends of my duffel bag, and then we'll be back for the next step. I think you can see here I've taken the inner pocket, and remember the line we drew? That's right here. I've lined it up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to top stitch it down. Once I've top stitched it down, I'm just going to pin it and set it aside for the directions. So back in the beginning, we drew a line down the front, across the front of it. We want to stitch on that line on both ends. So I'm going to stitch across here, and then on this end, I'm going to stitch across here. And what that's going to do is just help the bag to fold a little bit better. Once I get that done, then we're actually going to start putting the entire bag together. Thank you so much for joining me today while we worked on our Travel Duffle 2.0. Next time we're going to be finishing up putting the bag together and getting it ready so that we can all use it. Thanks so much for sticking around, and I'll see you again really soon. Bye.
Smiling faces, the family way. Margaret, Lou, and quilting will make your day.